One. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 10th, 2020 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I appreciate all of you joining us on a hot summer night for our 7th Zoom remote town board meeting since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, before we get started tonight, I do understand that there was some excitement on Palmerston Road this evening, all because of one of the residents on Palmerston Road, who actually is with us this evening, is celebrating a milestone birthday tonight. Now, I'm not going to get specific with exactly what milestone it is, but Councilmember Chris Warner, I want to wish you a happy birthday. Hope it's been a great day for you. As I mentioned, we're holding our meeting tonight on Zoom. It's being broadcast on Spectrum Cable Channel 1303 and live streamed on our YouTube channel under Governor Cuomo's executive order modifying some of the provisions of the Open Meetings Law to enable local government bodies to continue to meet and to do so in a way that would be remote, but still open and accessible to the public. We continue to do this by starting all of our meetings, even these Zoom meetings, with an open forum. And when we get to the open forum in just a couple minutes, anyone can call in at 303-3060. So someone will take your call and or your question, your comment, pass them along to me. We'll try to address them. We also make all our meetings, including these Zoom meetings, accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our sign language interpreters. Tonight we have Heather Barzinski as well as Melissa Lanty interpreting, and I thank you both for being here. I would like to begin tonight's meeting, though, by asking if you're physically able to join me in kneeling for 1 minute to honor the life of Mr. George Floyd and the lives of Breonna Taylor, Philandro Castile, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, and the others whose names we say tonight to recognize that Black Lives Matter in Brighton and in our nation. So if you're able to, I would ask that you kneel with me for a moment. Thank you. Last Saturday, students and alums from Brighton High School organized and conducted a rally in the 12 Corners and a march from there to Buckland Park. They rallied, we rallied for justice and to send the unquestionable message that Black Lives Matter. The rally included some excellent student speakers, what I thought was an absolutely riveting poetry reading. It was a wake-up call, frankly. But most importantly, it began with an 8-minute and 46-second silence while we kneeled and contemplated the last minutes of Mr. Floyd's life. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds felt like an eternity. And for Mr. Floyd, they were. I call on each and every one of us in Brighton to examine and challenge our belief systems and to recognize that systemic racism is a reality. Yes, even here in Brighton. And it's a reality that hampers all of us in achieving our full potential because it undermines our ability to achieve the reconciliation and redemption that Dr. Martin Luther King said leads to the creation of the beloved community. Dr. King said our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives. And what I saw in those students on Saturday was a quest for redemption, a quest for reconciliation, a quest for justice without violence, a quest for the kind of quantitative change in our lives that will help us create Dr. King's beloved community. I want to thank every one of the organizers of the rally, everyone that participated, in the hope that, as Dr. King said, your work will bend the long arc of the moral union. I also want to remind you of the words of former Attorney General Eric Holder, who said, the arc bends towards justice, but it only bends towards justice because people pull it to justice. It doesn't happen on its own. The people who rallied on Saturday are pulling the arc to justice, and it behooves all of us to listen and to join in. Now, as I've done every week, every meeting, since the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak, I want to give a brief update of where we're at. The state of New York and the town of Brighton remain under a state of emergency. Town Hall is now open to the public by appointment only. We ask that if you want to make an appointment, you contact the department you need to work with by phone or by email, text, and they'll work with you to see whether your needs can still be handled remotely. And if they can, that's what we're going to encourage people to do. But if you need to come in, the only entry to the building is through the public safety wing, where the police and the courts are, either the front or the back door. Now, when you come in, we will conduct temperature checks of everyone entering the building. All visitors will be required to wear face coverings in order to protect our employees and our other visitors. Social distancing is a must. We've installed clear panels in a number of offices that deal with the public, and added cleaning and sanitizing protocols have been observed. We're also focused on businesses in Brighton and their ability to reopen successfully. 2 weeks ago, I issued an emergency order relaxing Brighton's sign ordinance to give struggling small businesses the opportunity to better publicize themselves as they reopen. Last week, I issued an order streamlining the process for restaurants to get approval for outdoor seating. Several Brighton restaurants were already serving customers outdoors after the governor permitted that between the beginning of phases 2 and 3 of reopening. And I wish each of those restaurants much success, and really all of our restaurants, all of our businesses in reopening as the state of New York and this region all reopen. Now, as I've mentioned before, I've been pointing out some of what Don Alhart, news anchor on Channel 13, would call bright spots. I crib that a little bit, and I call them Brighton spots. People who are going above and beyond to make things a little brighter during these difficult times. Tonight, I've already talked about those Brighton High School students and alums, and their work towards justice is indeed a Brighton spot. But I also want to talk about another group of students from the Brighton High School Law and Government class. Every semester I speak to the Law and Government class, and this year I did that on Friday, March 13th. It seems like an eternity ago now. But on that day, and it was Friday the 13th, we were just beginning to become aware of the community spread of COVID-19. And as I looked out on a classroom of about 60 students in an auditorium style classroom there at Brighton High School, seniors, several classes joined together for a single class meeting as they do, I couldn't help but wonder whether that was going to be their last day of classes of their high school career. And sadly it was. It was exactly that. That was the last day that Brighton High School was open. But thanks to the attention given to remote learning in the Brighton Central School District since that time, those students have continued to learn about government as they do every year. They've engaged with me and other local, state, and federal officials by writing to us with questions, comments, sometimes a little criticism, and sometimes even praise. If you look at tonight's agenda, you'll see reference to those communications, which ask about issues ranging from development and environmental issues to COVID-19. Teaching that law and government class and reading and responding to Brighton High School student letters is always a bright spot in my schedule, but never more so than this year. So tonight I want to acknowledge the time to write me this semester, and of course your teachers. I wish you all the very best as you move on from Brighton High School, and I hope you take a little bit of Brighton with you as you move through life. Each of these law and government students and each of the students that organized and conducted that great rally on Saturday in the march, you are my Brighton spots tonight. Thank you. You did make Brighton a better place for all of us. Okay, as I mentioned a moment ago, we will now move to the open forum portion of the meeting. And anyone who is watching us can dial in. Phone number is 303-3060. That's 303-3060. We'll take your questions or your comments, and we'll try to answer them for you. In case any of those questions come in, we'll circle on back to those. But why don't we begin moving ahead with our agenda? And can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Bill, I move that we approve the.
Thank you, Chris. Second?
Second by Robin Wilt.
Thank you, Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. We have no public hearings tonight. So can I have a motion to receive and file those student communications and the other communications that we have tonight?
So moved.
Second, Robin.
We do have quite a few. Let me go through them quickly. We have correspondence from Lawrence M. Hauk, Larry Hauk, Treasurer of the Brighton Fire District, attached to the year-end 2019 financial statements prepared by the Brighton Fire District, with what they are calling a workforce reduction credit, a refund of a portion of our workers' compensation premium in the amount of $2,391. We have correspondence from James Candelario, Director of Environment, Health, and Safety at the New York State Canal Corporation. People who have been following us for some time will recall that we and the towns of Pittsford and Parrington worked together with residents of our communities when the Canal Corporation tried to, I'll say ram through, a plan to clear cut. And when I say clear cut, I mean clear cut vegetation, trees, all of the habitat from along the banks of the canal, something they had already done west of here, something that they were proposing to do on a statewide basis. There had been no environmental review, none at all, and it was clear under the State Environmental Quality Review Act that they needed to do so. So we sued the three of us towns successfully and stopped the project, at least here in our towns and everywhere to the east of us. The Canal Corporation has now begun the review of a new project. And this is what they're calling the seeker scoping statement. For people that are familiar with seeker, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, one of the things that you may, although are generally not required to do, is to go through a public scoping process in which the players in the review have the opportunity to identify issues that they believe are important to the development of the scope of an environmental impact statement and important to the scope of the overall environmental review of the project. So that is what has been sent out now. And I don't know whether it's gotten to your office yet, Mike, but if it hasn't, it will. And we will begin the process of reviewing that to make sure that this time the public has the opportunity and we have the opportunity to engage in a true environmental review. And hopefully what will come out of that is a better project, one that can meet, if there are legitimate needs of the Canal Corporation, fine, but also the legitimate needs of the residents who have a vested interest in a canal that is a beautiful, important part of our community, and that it remain environmentally stable. So have correspondence from Elizabeth Friedhaber asking us to work to address police abuse. We have correspondence from George Moreau from Parsons Engineering asking to install monitoring wells around the Browncroft Road landfill owned by the town in order to assess the water quality. There was an inspection done about 2 years ago successfully. There were no issues found, but I think because of some concerns of other decommissioned landfills, they just want to make sure and conduct these tests. So we will be giving them that approval, and over the next month or two, they'll be installing those ground wells. We also have communication from Clayton Jones, who is the assistant to the president of MCC, advising us of some changes to MCC's Startup New York campus plan. We have communication from Bill Carpenter, who is the CEO of RTS. There have been, as everybody knows, some challenges with the bike share system that was initiated in the city and to a limited extent spread into the rest of the county. Mr. Carpenter is communicating about the potential for a new regional bike share system. And then we have 2, 4, 6, 7 letters from Brighton High School students. I received another one actually today, too late to be included in this list. But Davis Goldfeder, Gabriel Cosimano, Caden Caposeri, Claire Templeton, Matthew Falter, Kiaja Avarelli, and Ella Lyons. Thank you, each one of you, for your thoughtful letters that you wrote to me. I've had a chance now to get back to almost all of you, and we'll make sure that you do hear from me, because when you take the effort to write an elected official like that, it registers, and we want to make sure you know that we've heard you. Okay, so those are the communications. We have a motion to receive and file all of those. Any discussion on any of those?
Yes, Bill, I'd like to go back to the letter from RTS about the potential for a regional share system.
Yes.
And note that they are seeking a point person from each university, town, or entity that they've reached out to. I'm curious to know, have you had the opportunity to consider who you'll be appointing as the point person on this project?
I have not, but I think that might be something you might be interested in.
I very much would be. I think a truly regional bike share program brings the equity and transportation that we've been pushing for in Brighton, and it would be good to have a loud Brighton voice on this plan.
Well, I appreciate the interest, and we will be appointing someone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Dan, then please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Hi.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. I am hearing some echoing. I don't know if it's a function of mute buttons not being on or what, but I don't know whether that's going out over the air or not, but I'm certainly hearing it. But in any event, let's continue on. As we have said, we don't have our 4 town board committees are not meeting on a regular basis, but I do want to give each of our committee chairs an opportunity to give an update. I know you're in communication with relevant departments, so we'll start with Robin, Community Services.
Thank you so much. As you said, the Community Services Committee has not met since the last town board meeting, but I do have from our recreation department. Rebecca Cotter wants to know that governments may open on June. The guidelines on how safely have not been released, and our recreation department will be working closely with the Monroe County Health Department to evaluate if we can participants and staff. The town of Brighton understands the importance of summer recreation, and we will be making a decision very on summer camp. All registration for in-person summer programming, including camps, remains closed, however, at this time. In addition, we want to remind our patrons that it's closed for the entire summer season. Updates will be provided on camps and programs as the situation evolves. We can continue to evaluate in-person programming as deemed appropriate and as follows all local and state guidelines. Registration for our online programming also remains open time, so see our website. That's www.townofbrighton.org for a list of available online programs and also to register for those online offerings. We will not move forward with any in-person summer programming registration until we know that we will be able to safely meet the needs of your family and comply with all state and county requirements. We'll communicate new registration information as soon as we feel confident in doing so. So please do not mail any registration forms in at this time. Will be returned. We ask for your, as this is an evolving situation, please monitor the town's website again at www.town track and the Recreation Department Facebook page for updates. We also want the community to know that the Brighton Farmers Market is open. The Brighton Market is open with new COVID-19 procedures on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Brighton High School. Are encouraged but not required. And the first hour of market day from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. will be reserved for seniors, vulnerable individuals, and recommend that one individual per fan, if at all possible. And we ask that dogs and other pets please stay home. You always please the farmer website for full details, and that website is www.brightonfarmersmarket.org. These policies are subject to change and will be adjusted as warranted given the status of COVID-19. In-person programs and community rec department is operating remotely for the time being. And if you'd like additional information again on any of our recreation announcements, just to our www.townofbrighton.org/rec or our Facebook page at facebook.com/recreation. An update to our Parks Department. Our Parks Department has no further changes in status to note at this time, but we are anticipating fields, playgrounds, and rental facilities, although with possible occupancy restrictions to reopen during phase 4. Park staff have been very busy. Park facilities for our eventual reopening. Tennis is currently the only low-risk recreational activity that is allowed. Our courts and nets, Monday, May 18th, lodge and pavilion reservations have been canceled and refunded through June 30th. Again, parking at Corbett's Glen is part of the town's executive order renewal. We are currently not accepting reservations for lodges, pavilions, and athletic fields, but hopefully we will be able to resume in July. Basketball courts, athletic fields, pavilions, and playgrounds remain closed. Again, we will anticipate changing phase. Time staff resumed regular work hours on May 18th. We have strict policies in place that allow staff to safely work. Mask and face coverings are mandatory when social distancing cannot be practiced. As mentioned, we are trying to get caught up for the community's patience in that regard. Part-time permanent staff return to work on Saturday, May 23rd, and are following the same policies as full staff. We reopened park bathrooms on Saturday, May 23rd. We're busy implementing new sanitizing and cleaning protocols, including using electrostats to large areas, detailed checklists for buildings, rooms, and general park common areas. Again, I want to remind everyone that the community for, including the Chamber of Commerce 5K race, has been canceled. I want to provide a quick update to our census because I'm an extremely competitive person and I'm upset. Still trailing that of our neighboring towns at 73.3%. So I want to encourage everybody who has not yet come to do so. We're still trailing Penfield, who's at 76.4% response rate, Parrington at 77.8%, and Pittsford, who's already at 1%. No, an accurate count is critical to ensuring that we are properly funded for our emergency responders, our infrastructure, our after-school programs, and the whole that we provide for the town. So at the end of the day, it really is about money, power, and data. So make sure that it does get its fair share by 2020 census. You can respond to the census again at 2020census.gov, and we thank you for participating. And I just want to, because tonight the board will be formally authorizing the supervisor to enter into an electricity supply agreement with Jewel Assets, Inc., our community choice aggregation administrator, bids for a 100% renewable energy compilation is part of our community choice aggregation program, Monroe Community Power. The least early scheduled meeting of the Services Committee would have been on Wednesday, June 17th at 9:30 a.m., but that meeting will not take place in person. And again, we want to thank friends of the COVID calls. Please do stay safe and stay socially distanced and masked whenever the situation calls for it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robin. I can actually give an update at this point on summer camps because the state did issue guidance on summer camps. Becky and I spent quite a bit of time walking through them, talking about what we could do. You're correct, we have not yet formally updated our website, but we are hoping and anticipating at this time that on a more limited basis, and frankly a much more limited basis, limited to town residents only, but that we will be able to comply with those state guidelines, take the guidance from the county health department, and conduct a much reduced summer camp this summer. But stay tuned for more details on that. I would anticipate it would be able to begin on July 6th. So just that little bit of an update. Let's go to Christine.
Oh, you're keeping us on our toes, Bill.
I am.
The Public Safety Committee has not met in person. We were scheduled to meet yesterday, but of course we're still observing safety guidelines and not meeting at Town Hall. I want to extend gratitude to all of our public safety personnel in town, keeping the public safe, particularly in relation to the student-led demonstrations of the past couple of days. There was a lot of thoughtful interaction with the young people who were making plans to make their voices heard in support of Black lives in our community and everywhere. And that's there's a careful balance there. Young people have the right to lead and coordinate as they see fit to make their voices heard. But the wisdom of adults, particularly adults with long experience in keeping the public safe, is critical in ensuring that it's a successful demonstration and not something that devolves into disarray and disorder. And so kudos to the young people who led that demonstration for partnering with Chief Catholdi and his team, and gratitude to all the public safety first responders who were a part of ensuring that that was a safe experience for all and a positive one, tremendously positive. The next public safety meeting is scheduled at this point for Tuesday, July 14th at 8 a.m. in Town Hall in the lower level meeting room. And hopefully by then we will be meeting in public. Assuming we are, I have heard from members of the public with matters that they would like to bring to the Public Safety Committee. I encourage folks, if you have a matter of interest for Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, for the police department, for the fire departments that serve this community, you can contact me or any member of the Public Safety Committee to seek to have those matters put on the agenda in advance. There is more information about the committee and process, and it can be found at www.townofbrighton.org/535/public-safety-committee. Contact information for the members of the committee is on that page, as well as more information about the where to find agendas and minutes of past meetings. And that is all.
Thanks, Christine. Chris, Public Works.
Thank you. Bill, just first to piggyback on Christine's report on public safety, on which I also sit when we're holding the meetings. I wanted to share with you, my thoughts, but how much we mourn the violent death of yet another Black man here in America, and express my concern that it did come at the hands of a police officer, which to take a moment here just to express my appreciation for the exceptional job and professional job performed by our Brighton peace officers. And I wanted to ask the chief, first of all, how's the morale in the department? Because it has become a very difficult time to be a police officer and do the job properly, as we have done. But also, if he could describe what makes our department so successful and different in our training and in general approach to policing. So Dave, if you could, and I had mentioned to Dave that I would ask you for this sort of report.
Sure. As far as morale goes, and if for some reason, I know there was an echo when there were a couple other speakers. If there's an echo, just somebody wave. It's one of the most, I've been in police officer now going on 25 years. And it's one of the most difficult times that I've ever experienced as a police officer. We've endured the height of a pandemic. The officers have had their time off restricted. I've had to cancel vacations. There was a lot of uncertainty, obviously around COVID-19. We were just coming out of that. I sensed that the morale of the officers was starting to take a turn. And then 3 weeks ago, George Floyd was murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis. And when I was sworn in 9 months ago, I could have never imagined that an incident in the Midwest would not only affect the entire world, but there'd be ramifications right here in the community that I serve. If you remember back to when I was sworn in, and part of the speech that I gave, I told all the men and women that we're only as good as our last call, and that we have to do everything in our power to make sure that we earn it every day. I couldn't have predicted the murder, but I know as a profession that we need to do a lot of soul searching. His murder has fractured community relations that my predecessor and I have worked so hard to get. We've been working with faith-based groups, different segments of the community for the last 4 years. And the conversation always comes back to trust and legitimacy in policing. And I asked at the very last meeting we had before COVID-19, I asked the group, if I could achieve trust and legitimacy today, we could all agree on that, then what? If I walked out the door and something happened across the United States, how would that affect us? And that's what we're living through today. I know I've heard the calls. I watch the news. The men and women of the department watch the news. They see the calls to not only defund police departments, but to abolish them. And it takes a mental toll on them. And it's a stressful period. And I tell them that we have great support here in this community. Last Saturday, as many of you have said, we all witnessed some young kids. And I say young, they were juniors in college that organized this event. And I think that gives us hope for the future generations. And I did a couple of foot patrols over the weekend, talked to a lot of members of the community along Monroe Avenue to reassure them that we're here. It's going to be a peaceful protest. And I was overwhelmed by the support that I received by the majority of this community. And I try to convey that every day to these officers that we are supported, but it doesn't give us carte blanche to have ineffective policing. I don't think this is a time to defund police. I think it's a time to invest in your police, invest in the communities in which they serve. Let's come up with a better and smarter way to do policing. I believe in all my heart that we here in Brighton, and again, I've only been the chief for 9 months, but my predecessors before me have set the stage so we can do great things here in Brighton. We have led the way, whether we're talking about body-worn cameras, in the first agency in the county to have a controlling policy with body-worn cameras, whether it's all of the de-escalation training that our officers have gone through. 100% of the membership of the sworn staff here in the police department have had mental health first aid training. And what that does is that gives officers a different perspective on dealing with and interacting with people in crisis. It's not always a use of force. Sometimes it's de-escalation skills, verbalizing, communicating, showing empathy, showing compassion. We were set to have our awards banquet a few months ago, and I was going to unveil to you and show you some of the great work that the men and women of this police department did and the de-escalation skills that they've used, and they are going to receive awards for when we get back to meeting in person. We have almost 25% of the sworn staff here have been crisis intervention team trained. And what that is, it's a higher level of training in not only de-escalation, but recognizing how to best interact with people who are in crisis, whether it be mental health crisis, drug-induced crisis. We have a very strong partnership with the Office of Mental Health. We have a FIT team that comes out here at least once or twice a month. And the FIT team is a forensic intervention trained team, and they partner with us. We take a proactive approach rather than waiting for a 911 call when someone's in crisis and interacting with a person when they're in crisis. We go out when they're not in crisis. And that's how we can show empathy. And that's how we can show that we're there to help. We're not there necessarily to always enforce the law, but to make sure they're getting the services they need. I'm very proud of what I do for a living. It's taken an emotional toll on me. I think we can do better. I think that I've pledged that we'll try to do better. We'll strive to do better. And that's my commitment to you, and that's my commitment to this town.
Thanks very much, Dave. We always like to think, in fact, I know that Brighton leads the way in so many areas. And I believe that our Brighton police force can lead the way as well if we continue the way we've been doing it in the past. And I appreciate your approach that looking always for better ways to improve your performance. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So on to Public Works Bill. I'm sorry to kind of left turn here. Commissioner Guyon was kind enough to provide me with a summary as well. We had gotten the bids on the winter farmers market interior improvement, and the department is requesting that the town board authorize awarding the contract to BLM Construction at tonight's meeting, which is on the agenda. Also, we're looking to authorize the award of a project to Barton and Loguidice on the top storage tank sump penetration study as well over at the highway garage. Lawn and garden debris pickup has moved along very well, and we've completed our first pass through town as of just this past Monday. And we're continuing to pick up bulk debris in areas 1 through 2, and you can find those areas on the town board map. And then we'll be in area 3 on Thursday. Town crews completed 3 passes through the town for containerized pickup as of May 29th. And they're currently in areas 13 to 17, and we'll be in areas 17 to 22 tomorrow. Outdoor dining, Bill, as you had indicated, you moved ahead with an executive approach to authorizing outdoor dining for our restaurants so we can expedite those permits. And that's been a part of the effort that Commissioner Guyon and your staff as well have been working on. We're talking about having the planning board meeting on June 17 by a Zoom meeting or a virtual meeting, again on the 17th. We've completed our chip sealing program for the year in our various neighborhoods, and we would be beginning our road paving program as well. First, we're finalizing the street to be paved, but due to COVID-19 crisis, the road preparation has been delayed, and our schedule of roadways to be paved will need to be adjusted to account for this delay. But we continue to perform our public works services, and if anyone needs any special attention in an area, please contact Town Hall. Our next meeting, if it's to be held, would be July 7th at 9:00 a.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And I'll just take a moment before I go to Jason as well, who will talk about finance. You know, last meeting the chief presented our annual report, which tells the story of policing in Brighton by the numbers. I hope the community heard tonight that as strong as those numbers were, and as strong as Dave Cathaldi's presentation was on the numbers, what you also heard tonight, what I certainly heard tonight, and what I've seen in your time as chief, as short as it is, but also obviously your service as captain, is that commitment to community, the commitment to community policing, the commitment to recognizing that that justice is an important part of your mission. And we all saw that the other day, as by the way did those students. I think it's important to note that the students themselves thanked you personally and the Brighton Police Department for keeping them safe. It was almost a 2-mile long march. Winton Road, Westfall Road. It was too many people to stay on the sidewalks. And so we had police cars trailing. It was really important. And your statement, and I would also note Captain Desane's statements in the aftermath of Mr. Floyd's murder were also telling in terms of your empathy and your understanding of the gravity of the situation. So there is no finer department. I've said it before, I will say it again. There is no finer law enforcement agency in this area, in this state, than the Brighton Police Department, and we're lucky. Finance, Jason.
Yes, Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee, just like our other town board committees, has not met in person. Earlier this week, our Finance Director, Paula Parker, submitted to us an action items list containing each of the items that appear on tonight's agenda, together with the supporting documentation and correspondence from the various department heads and staff. 2 of the items that will be discussed on tonight's agenda and were presented in the action items list are 2 of the items that Councilmember Werner just mentioned. The bid contract award for the Winters Farmers Market Barn Interior Renovation Project, as well as the RFP award for the Fuel Island Penetration Evaluation Project. The other item that was circulated were copies of our 2019 audited financial statements. And I see on our agenda that that's under matters of the supervisor, and I imagine there'll be a brief presentation on those. But from preliminary review of those look to be good. So that's always a good sign and always reassuring. So our next meeting is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, June 17th. However, it appears that meeting will also be canceled. We'll have to stay tuned. Hopefully coming up in July, we'll be able to meet in person again.
Thanks, Jason. I'll stick with you. We'll move to new business and move to the reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $647,113.71. Notable claims include to CATCO in the amount of $69,383.38 for construction services related to the Highland Crossing Trail project. Also to the Depository Trust Company in the amount of $96,384.39, of which $90,000 was principal paid toward the 2015 bonds, which included the salt barn roof, sweeper, dump truck, Fairfield Culvert Reline, and East Avenue Sewer Reline projects. Also continuing to pay down debt to the Greene County Commercial Bank in the amount of $87,130, of which $80,000 was principal for payment for 2016 bonds for the Highland Crossing Trail project, dump truck, flusher truck, and library HVAC projects. Also to Paris Kerwin Associates in the amount of $196,242.43 for payment for liability, auto, inland marine, which is equipment, and public officials 2020 to 21 year. And the payment represents from June 1st through December 31st. Finally, to Roman Construction Development Corporation in the amount of $12,580.66. It was our final payment and retainage release for the 2019 sidewalk project. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Can I have a second?
Second, Robin.
Any discussion on any of those? Always good to pay down debt. Thanks, Jason. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Christine.
The next matter seeks to authorize an award to BLM Construction Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $419,470 for the construction of Phase 2 of the Winter Farmers Market project. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Chris Warner.
Discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. It's great to keep moving that project along. It's one we've been working on and one step at a time. Thanks, Mike. Chris, if you'd handle the next one, please.
Thanks, Bill. The next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Barton and Loguidici in an
It's
amount.
actually LeJudas.
LeJudas. Well, okay. LeJudas, Barton and LeJudas, thank you. In an amount not to exceed, I'm getting older, you know, in an amount not to exceed $3,980 for the evaluation of penetrations through the Operations Center Fuel Island and the UST tank top sumps, and to authorize the budget transfer of $2,500 from the Department of Public Works engineering account to the Highway Department maintenance repair service account. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second.
You'll recall we this project was identified as a potential need for a capital improvement project last year through the capital improvement plan. We made the decision, let's take a little bit deeper study to see how serious the problem is. And hopefully this will give us some better insight. Hopefully it'll give us the insight that we don't need to do as comprehensive a project as we thought we might. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, anyone? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin.
Thanks, Bill. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Jewel Assets, Inc. for electricity part of choice aggregation. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Thank you. And speaking of the attorney to the town, boy, we're echoing now again badly, off and on. Thank you, Ken. Ken has been working with the attorneys for the other jurisdictions, literally right down to the wire today, making sure that we're all comfortable with the form of this agreement with the town attorneys from Pittsford and Irondequoit, the village attorney from the village of Pittsford. This is a lengthy agreement. We had some very serious discussions about how to proceed with the CCA supply agreement, whether we were comfortable with the parameters, whether we wanted to look at some different parameters. And so I thank you, Ken, for the legwork you put in on helping get us where we're at. We have a motion and a second on that. Any further discussion?
Yes, Supervisor, if I may, actually working down to the wire even more than you might know. So I have emailed to you and the town clerk and the supervisor's assistant, Bridget Monroe, a revised resolution, because in looking at what was included in the packet, Supervisor Maley had made 2 corrections to the resolution. One was to remove a reference to rocktricity. You'll see in the 4th whereas paragraph that it states that the town of Brighton entered into a contract with Jewel and rocktricity. That's actually not factually accurate. We entered into a contract with Jewel. Jewel entered into a contract with rocktricity. So it's a technical correction, but we still want to make sure it's right. Yep. Rocktricity is still on the job, is still going to be out there helping us with getting the word out to the public about this important energy program. But the town itself did not enter into a contract. The other change is in the first resolved paragraph. The supervisor asked why the word tenor, T-O-R, was in that paragraph. I said, whoops, that is a typo. That word should read term, T-E-R-M, and we made that correction. For some reason, those corrections did not get into the resolution that is in the town board packet. I apologize for that, but I have now made those corrections, and those corrections are in the corrected resolution that the town clerk has to have action taken on. So I would ask if the movant, that would be Robin, and the seconder, which I believe was
Jason
Anzio, would agree to the friendly amendments that I just mentioned.
I so move with the amendment mentioned by Ken.
And I second with the friendly amendments discussed by Mr. Gordon.
And then the only additional comment I wanted to make, Supervisor, was this, that tonight it is very important the vote we're taking. It allows the process to go forward. What will happen next in the process is that this form electricity supply agreement, which you are now approving this evening, will be made part of a request for proposal that Jewel will be putting out to energy supply companies. And then they will come in with proposals to provide 100% renewable energy to the town of Brighton under the parameters that we have identified, namely that that the pricing be pricing which is less than the average price paid for residential consumers over the last 12-month average. And that is going to be a difficult task, quite frankly, for Jewel to do. But they are going to take that RFP out and seek bids. And we are hoping that we get competitive pricing that will meet those parameters. If we get bids that meet those parameters that include 100% renewable energy at those pricing parameters set, then we have stated, and that is what this resolution states, that the town of Brighton will sign that energy supply agreement and we will go forward with the CCA program. If, on the other hand, we do not get a compliant bid, then we will have to go back and sit down with Jewel and try to figure out what needs to be done so that we can still go ahead and deliver 100% renewable energy to the community.
And I know Jewel has some thoughts on that, but hopefully we won't get there.
Right.
Hopefully we will be successful in this round of bidding, but if we're not, I want to make sure that we're in a position to go back out to the market and get community choice aggregation here in Brighton and in our neighboring communities. Thanks for that update.
And just to give you an idea of what the timing is going to be like, the towns of Pittsford and Irondequoit and the village of Pittsford are all taking action on this very same energy supply agreement by the middle of this month. By the 16th, I think, is the latest date of any of those other municipality meetings. And we will then have every municipality that is part of the Monroe Power Group approved. And then the RFP will go out, and very quickly we'll know whether we have a compliant bid or not in, frankly, a matter of days. So we're hoping that this program goes live very, very shortly.
Thanks, Ken. We have that motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt? Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor. Yes, as was mentioned, I do want to talk a little bit about the 2019 Brighton financial statements. It's a little bit almost Dickensian. It's a tale of two cities because what you will see in the 2019 Town of Brighton financial statements was, again, very, very strong fiscal control, very, very strong fiscal performance by the Town of Brighton during 2019. And that's a credit to the finance department, Paula Parker and Suzanne Zaso. But it's also really a credit to all of our department heads who work very closely to right-size their operations, to always recognize the impact of expenditures and to act accordingly. Now, very honestly, it also reflects some very good outcomes on some of our very important revenue lines, in particular sales tax revenues, mortgage recording tax revenues, income, interest income, all of which were strong last year and performed better than we had budgeted. So that's the first city. Now, let's flip to 2020. And again, I'll just, finish by saying that our auditors have again given us a clean, a clean audit. They've conducted their review. They've worked very closely with our finance staff, and I appreciate the thoroughness and the diligence and frankly, their ability to get this done as timely as they did despite the COVID-19 pandemic. So much appreciated. Going forward, we already know, it is painfully clear that those same budget lines that did perform quite well from a revenue perspective in 2019, sales tax, mortgage recording tax, interest income, are all going to be significantly below budgeted levels this year due to the COVID-19 economic impacts. We are going to, fortunately, come in to this pandemic in a strong financial position. Our AA credit rating, the clean audits that we've had, the comptroller's review of our financials put us in a better position than many to be able to withstand the difficult impacts of this crisis. And you know, I think it's really important for the community to understand it's not so much the expense lines, it's the revenue lines. Our revenues will be down dramatically in those areas because of the impact of COVID-19. And sales tax, for example, we have very little control over that, but in the month of April alone, sales tax revenue in Monroe County from last year. So we know that we're going to be having to climb out of a hole, and we're working hard again, continuing to look very closely at some of our expenditures. We know that we're going to be cutting back on some of our capital expenditures, and you know, doing everything that we can do realistically to maintain the fiscal strength that has been important to us going forward. I mention that now because even as we're receiving financial reports for 2019 and discussing the impact of COVID-19 on our current operations in 2020, we have also begun the budget development process for 2021. Which, as it always does, begins with our CIP, our capital improvement plan, our 3-year plan where we look out to major capital investment type projects. You heard some of them discussed during the Public Works discussion: paving, chip sealing. Those are some of the big things we do, sewer work, sidewalk work. But there's also major capital projects elsewhere, equipment, whether it's public works or police vehicles. All of those are important capital expenditures. And every year we start our budget process by taking a 3-year outlook at what our capital expenditures are going to look like, and knowing that our revenues are going to continue to be impacted negatively, not just this year, but certainly in years at least 2021 and probably beyond. We will be looking at our capital improvement plan very closely to make priorities, determine what we need to do now, what can be put off. And that's the process we will engage, as we always do, our community, our budget review task force, the great work of our staff, and that will be the first step leading into the budget development process, the very open, very public budget development process that we pride ourselves in and that we follow every year. So you're going to be hearing more about that, but it is a tale of two cities, and it's something we're going to have to work very hard to get through, because maintaining our fiscal strength helps us. You heard Jason talk about our debt, paying off principal on our debt. one of the reasons we are able to borrow at very attractive rates, and we did just borrow at very attractive rates for our 2020 equipment purchase planning, is because our financial strength is recognized based on our Moody's bond rating. So it's important that we maintain that. It's important that we maintain our fiscal responsibility, and it's important that we keep the needs of taxpayers in Brighton in mind as we do that. So we've a couple other things I was going to talk about, the 4th of July and the farmers market update, but Robin has already talked about those. So again, we'll be focusing on these fiscal matters now through October, when we expect to approve our budget this year. Paula, anything you want to say when it comes to the fiscal matters?
No, the reason we performed well in 19 is because, of course, we did see increased revenues, but our department heads and their staffs are very frugal about the money that they spend, and they, take care to make sure and do all the estimates, get good pricing. It's a team effort, and we all do it together.
Absolutely. All right, good. Matters of the attorney to the town.
Thank you, Supervisor. I just have a few matters. First, I did want to make an announcement with my hat on, actually, as attorney to the Historic Preservation Commission, and let the board know and the community know that we will be holding a June 25th Historic Preservation Commission meeting via Zoom. That meeting will start at 7:15 p.m. And information about how to participate in that meeting, if you do have a matter that needs to go before the Historic Preservation Commission, will be available on the town's website. Secondly, I have 3 matters actually of litigation, Supervisor, that I will need to discuss with the town board in executive session. I had mentioned before the meeting that there might be 2. There's actually a 3rd matter as well that we'll discuss. And lastly, and most importantly, I wish to say a happy birthday to my friend and colleague, Chris Warner. Chris, I hope you had a great day, and you're looking fit and proper, and I hope you enjoyed your birthday today.
Thanks very much, Ken. I appreciate it. It's been a great day.
Thanks, Ken. Matters of the clerk.
Couldn't find my mouse cursor. Nothing this evening.
Thanks. Matters of the town board. All right. Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people and the 3 litigation matters referenced by Ken? We will stay on Zoom to conduct that executive session, but we will ask the other participants to leave and enjoy the rest of the evening. Can I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Christine?
Yes.
Okay.
And Chris.
Thank you. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonte?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Thank you, everybody that watched us tonight. We appreciate that, and we look forward to seeing you again on Zoom, but on 1303 or on our live stream on our next town board meeting, Wednesday, June 24th at 7 p.m. Stay safe, everybody. Practice that social distancing. We're doing a great job here in Monroe County. Let's keep it that way. And we'll see you on June 24th. Have a wonderful evening.